Thank you for tuning in to another episode of From Dirt We Grow. I am your host, Stephanie Kendall. I have another awesome guest here with me today. And of course, before we get into who that is, I will ask you to please hit me with all the LSB that you can, like, subscribe, and bell. And of course, please share this as we are getting to some extremely important topics as the weeks go on. They are putting us in a position to hit more important topics. So please share, please like, please subscribe, and let me introduce you to my guest today. His name is Kyle, and he owns an SEO business. I'll let him tell you all about it. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, so I'm one of the owners of Greenhat Local SEO. We are an SEO and digital marketing agency, but we're not out to we're not out to just take people's money and run. What we want to do is change the industry and make other marketing agencies actually fulfill their promises to businesses, which is to help businesses grow. And that's what we're here to do, is to completely flip the script on the industry and get some trust back into what we are doing.
Imagine that, a business that is run on morals and integrity and not just greedy, blood-sucking greedsters.
Yeah, I mean, there really is too much of this. Like, people see life as a sort of zero-sum game, to where if somebody has something, then you don't have that thing. But that's not
Yeah.
how things are. I mean, society, we are a group of people who are all working together. Whether it's a business all working together to grow, or a country working together to make lives better for everybody else. It's all a group collective effort.
It should be, yes, and we're getting so far
Should
away from
be.
that. We're trying to work towards. And so my whole topic, like my whole point for this episode was to kind of do a recap of the topics that I have been covering, and to kind of get another viewpoint on some of these from somebody else, because I do this show mostly solo, and I'm just talking, and it's nice to get another opinion, another view on some of the things that I've been covering.
Yeah.
So I started at the very beginning, like the whole corruption, bringing the awareness to the political system that is in place for the people, but is not working for the people. How do you feel about that whole situation?
I mean, it's been so when you look at it, you hear these nut jobs on the right saying "Make America Great Again," right? And essentially, what they want to do is,
Great for who?
yeah,
But anyway, go
exactly,
ahead. Sorry.
exactly. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, back when we think of as America as great, like there was that post World War II boom.
Yeah.
Between the late 40s to the late 60s is when everybody says things were so great, yada yada. Even into the 80s, you still have some of these guys who are worshiping Reagan and stuff. And really, what they don't understand is, one, growth was not equal for everybody. I mean, there were still racial and sexual minorities who were oppressed back then, who didn't get a piece of this pie. Women
Wow.
couldn't even have credit cards until the 70s, right? All these people who say they want to make America great again really don't mean they want to make America great again for everybody else. They just want to go back. They want to regress back to when it was straight white males who were running the country, and everybody else
Who
was
had
just
all
kind
the
of
power?
subservient
Who
to
had
them.
all the
Exactly.
rights? Who had all the advantages?
Exactly. You don't hear them talking about the tax rate being 90% back then, right? You don't hear them talking about how health insurance companies hadn't become these valueless middlemen sucking up profits and stuff, right? You don't hear about
Right.
any of that kind of stuff. There's no economic justice that these people are talking about. All they're talking about is some sort of culture war, to where,
True.
straight white men back then were the ones who controlled everything and fuck everybody else.
That's a good freaking point, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Their whole rhetoric, their whole basis is
That's
bias issues. I don't know.
that's
It's
what it
all about
is.
divisional issues. But what's different
That
between us? It's yeah.
exactly,
That's a good point.
we had those programs back then, but you know really what changed? Like, why these programs are now being cut, and why they're now calling them handouts and stuff like that, and entitlements, even though we're paying into them. We had all these programs that were built out in the Great Depression, World War II, all that, and everything like that, right? And do you know who were the only people who were allowed to have those, who were allowed to apply for those and everything? Were white people. and
course.
white men. And once the Civil Rights Act hit and minorities were able to qualify for these programs, you had more things available for single mothers, single parents, things like that, and sexual minorities. All of a sudden, the same people who are benefiting off of those are the ones who are totally against them now, right? And it's because people who they see as inferior to them are gaining access to these social programs. Even though, and I know this firsthand because it happened to my family, some of those people were the ones who benefited from them growing up in the 60s. Having this as a racial issue or as a sexual orientation issue makes it so that we are divided and we're fighting amongst ourselves, and makes it easier for the billionaire class to come in and do shit like they're doing now.
Exactly. They are absolutely perpetuating these differences between us so that we are continuing the war amongst each other, our focus on each other and our differences, and not focusing on them and what they're doing to us.
Right. It's a divide and conquer strategy, and they are really good at it.
They are. And there's so many people that are taken with it. They're taken by it.
So like I said, like I own a marketing agency. I've spent, 20 years in marketing. And a lot of what I do is just consumer psychology and knowing how people think. And I think I'm pretty good at this. And one thing that works best, the two things really that work best above everything else, is separating people into tribes and then making people afraid of a different tribe. Like if you look at a lot of marketing, you had Generation Pepsi, right? And you have and you have Just Do It with Nike, right?
Yeah.
You have all these brands who are creating this identity, and they're putting you into their tribe, right? What the right wing in the country is really good at is creating this identity for people, especially who might not have anything else to grasp on, and then saying, hey, this is you, this is your identity. Now look at the left. The left is trying to take this away from you, right? They're trying to give other people rights that previously were only for you, which again, in a lot of people's minds, they think it's a zero-sum game, to where if somebody else has rights, it means they don't.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's the whole rhetoric that somebody else's different view takes away from your view, or diminishes your view, or diminishes you.
Exactly. Yeah. I read somewhere that somebody said once that equality to the privileged looks like oppression.
Yeah, I like that.
We have this entire generation, this entire class of people who are being told, hey, it's really not cool to discriminate somebody based on what they have in their pants. Or, hey, yeah, it kind of sucks that you're discriminating against people because of the color of their skin. And they're like, well, fuck you, you're taking my rights away. Blah, 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 blah.
It has nothing to do with them. It's entitlement. I don't know. It doesn't, and it shouldn't. I don't understand why it affects them so much. But go ahead.
Because they're told that this affects them. If you think about it, like things like this whole like transgender thing, which you've been hearing about the past few years, like boys and women's sports and boys going in the girls' bathroom and stuff. Like, did you hear about that 15 years ago? Was that an issue? Was that an issue 10 years? No.
They brought it up just to divide us some more. Now
exactly.
They need a new diversion tactic.
Yeah, they need a new wedge tactic. I mean, before all of this, right up until the Civil Rights Act, it was, all these minorities are taking stuff away from you. You got to watch out for these black people and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden you couldn't do that. Then all of a sudden it was illegal to discriminate based on somebody's race. So you know what the next wedge issue that they got was? It was abortion. You don't hear about abortion at all before the 60s.
I am a woman, and I got my view on that. God
yeah. But then abortion became legalized. People started turning against abortion bans. And then, what happened?
The next wedge issue was against it. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong?
Oh, I know. I know women who are against it publicly who have had them. No, I mean, the only moral abortion is my abortion. That's what a lot of these women think. And like I said, like I know women who have had abortions
Entitlement.
Yeah, exactly.
Selfish.
But then once abortion became accepted, now it's transgender issues. All just wedge issues that the billionaire class is using to keep us fighting each other, so we don't notice that they're picking our pockets.
Cheap at this point. They're following critical thinking. I keep coming back to critical thinking because it's not. They don't want us to be able to think for ourselves.
100%.
So 100%. So those of us that can and do, they don't like it because then they have too many smart people that are more apt to be aware of what they're out here doing. There's actually people that are smart enough to think for themselves. They don't like that. Then they've got people questioning, why are they doing this? Why, there's people questioning their motives. But the more I see misabuse of their power and the greed and the corruption and the inequalities I can't stand when people take advantage of their position and their power,
Right.
and especially when it has to do with the whole entirety of nations' well-being.
Right. At least you can say you're doing your part. You didn't just sit back and
I
complain
can't.
about it. You actually said
I have to
you're
think
actually
about
doing.
my kid's future. How is that going to look?
Same here. My kid has
Yeah,
diabetes, and if he doesn't have access to insulin, he'll die. And do you know who just
it's so
removed
fucked.
price caps on insulin?
They don't even
Yeah.
care. They don't even
No.
care.
Right.
Okay, so I want to get somebody else's opinion on the two-party system. How is it beneficial to go back and forth every time someone's in office and then, reverse things?
That's a very good question. I mean,
Seriously, I want somebody to answer it.
yeah. Well, you know
like,
what?
like
No, it's a
logically,
really good question. Like,
I
and
feel
this
like it is.
is
That's why I brought it
this.
up.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is a natural consequence of having a first past the post system for elections. I mean, George Washington
How,
himself even warned about this, and he said that having political parties is going to be the death of democracy. And for I think the first two electoral cycles, we didn't have any political parties. It didn't start until after that with the Federalists, and I think it was the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. I don't remember which one it was. But
I
with
have no
with the
idea.
way our elections are set up with first past the post system, it necessarily will create political parties like this. And unfortunately, it's interesting because again, just going back to where things were post World War II, if you look at the stats post World War II, Democrats and Republicans oftentimes voted the same on issues. There was a lot more reaching across the aisle
Oh, it
to
was.
create meaningful change, and that really started to diverge. You see in the 80s, back when we really started to create tribes, and it really started to become the Republicans started really demonizing the left and creating tribes anyway.
What do you think about prison reform? Let's change the subject. Let's completely
I mean,
go.
prison reform is
Yeah,
just modern day slavery. All prisons are is a way for today for modern America to oppress
black
minorities
and
and use
brown
them for
people.
slave labor. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at the CIA and the crack epidemic and introducing crack into inner cities and stuff, and if you look at Nixon and trying to outlaw marijuana, even marijuana, marijuana wasn't even called marijuana before it got popular. It was called hemp, but they started calling it and branding it marijuana because it was a foreign sounding word. And it was a way to attach xenophobia to the plant. Yeah. So all this is now, and you hear about like prisoners and stuff working for private companies down in the South in like Florida and Alabama and stuff now for like something like 15 cents an hour. It's just modern day slavery. This is the only way to keep certain people controlled and oppressed in the country now. I mean, why does crack have a higher conviction rate and longer sentences than cocaine? Because guess who uses crack and guess who uses cocaine?
Cocaine is a higher privileged white person thing, while crack is in the streets, black person epidemic. And this is according to them, of course. But yeah, black and brown are disproportionately targeted by police.
Oh, for sure.
The fact that they don't have these programs and systems in place to actually rehabilitate people or to help people not it causes recidivism, but instead of building more prisons, they should spend that money on reform.
Right. I mean, you see, like in Scandinavia and stuff, to where they actually work on reforming prisoners rather than just having this puritanical need to punish people. I
Yes.
mean, that's how you have a functioning society.
Yes.
Tried to make hemp paper and hemp rope and stuff illegal and started calling it marijuana because it was xenophobic, right? And it was a Spanish word rather than hemp, which is an English word. And if you want to go back farther than that, vagrancy laws and homelessness laws and stuff like that weren't even on the books in a lot of in a lot of states and counties until slavery was ended and until you had black people who were, being freed and stuff. All of a sudden, a lot of these people didn't have homes and stuff. So then this is where you have the idea of sheriffs who were originally slave catchers. And you now made vagrancy illegal so they could just round up black people whenever they want to and throw them in prison because all of a sudden it's illegal to just be hanging out outside of your house. It's been 150 years of prisons being used as a way to control minorities. And
It's a way of getting around the whole civil rights movement. It's a way of
exactly. If you look at states now to where abortion has been seriously curtailed, women can be thrown into prison now for having abortions or for even having miscarriages, and doctors can do that too. And this is a way to control women's bodies.
Why do they feel like they have
legally.
the right to control other people?
I mean, fuck if I know. I mean, none of this shit. I'm a guy. I'm a 40-year-old dude. Like, I grew up middle class, solidly middle class. Like, a lot of people would say I'm privileged, which I am. And I honestly don't give a fuck what other people do with their bodies or what they do with their times, or, with their free time or behind closed doors, as long as it's not hurting anybody else. Yeah.
It's so hard to say, well, you had these opportunities. You don't know what kind of opportunities they had. It's all about who you know and what you
Yes.
have and where you grew up, how your parents grew up, and there's so many
Exactly.
factors into this. And the United States is so huge, so many people. There's no way it's ever going to be like one standard.
No way.
No way. So how do you govern something so huge without all these, different factors? There's no way. I don't
You
know.
can't
There's
do it.
there's a whole different system that needs to happen. And I don't
I
know the
mean,
answer, but I know
I
that this
got.
is fucked.
Yeah, I mean, like, I got my ideas, but yeah, I don't think there is any one good answer
Yeah.
for this.
Is there a way? What about they talked about defunding the police? What about defunding the politicians?
I would love that. I would
I would
love.
love that.
There's a bill going through to defund or to make super PACs illegal, which I think is a great start.
What is that?
Right?
To make what?
Super PAC, Super PAC is a political action committee that I think that the difference is that they don't have to disclose where their donors came from, and they don't have the same restrictions as like a regular political action committee would have. What other countries do is they have completely publicly funded elections to where both candidates get the same amount of money.
That's what I would.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that's how it has to happen. Having publicly funded elections would allow people who don't have a net worth of $100 million to actually step up and say, "Yeah, I've got some good ideas. There are problems here that I think we can solve by doing this," rather than just billionaires saying, "Yeah, we're just going to throw $100 million at this election, and I'm going to get what I want and then bone out of here." Because I know a lot of really smart people who would be really great politicians who just do not have the money to do it.
You see Denmark, you see Canada, you see these places that are thriving off of federally funded programs, healthcare.
Yep.
Schools are free and they're thriving.
Yep.
Well, why aren't we more like them? Why can't we do the things that they're doing? Why can't we put those systems in place?
Yep.
He's worried about the fucking changing the names of these things and
God, I know it's embarrassing.
why are you not worried about our problems right now?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. You're absolutely right. But in 2012, the Texas GOP, one of their platforms was the removal of "quote unquote" critical thinking in schools, and they wanted to promote the "quote unquote" supremacy of the parents.
Wait, that's an actual. Wait, it was what?
In 2012, in 2012, the Texas GOP, the Texas Republican Party, one of their platforms was a removal of higher order thinking, HOTS, I think it was called, higher order thinking skills, I think, i.e., critical thinking. They wanted to remove that from schools. You know what? Fuck Texas. I'm not sure if it passed, but that was definitely something that
low, like on the, it's something that they don't want you to do because they don't want you to think for yourself. But how is that an actual thing that they?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes, on January 9th at the state convention in 2012, the Texas Republican Party platform, literally verbatim, it says, "We oppose the teaching of higher order thinking skills," in quotes or in parentheses, HOTS, critical thinking skills, and similar programs that are simply a relabeling of outcome-based education, which focuses on behavior modification and have the purpose of challenging the students' fixed belief and undermining parental authority. Basically, they want to remove critical thinking skills from schools and only have children believe whatever their parents tell them. And like you said, hate is passed down.
I'm so blown right now. Like, I'm so mind blown right now.
Yeah.
That they had what?
Yeah, this is literally like how a big part of the country thinks. Like, kids should not be critical thinkers. They should just believe whatever the parents tell them. I mean, for how long have we been hearing that?
Actual thing that they brought up, like that how is that a thing that you could even think about putting into a law or putting into a bill? And
it's been completely masked off for 20 years now. I mean, really what it was is, I mean, you know what it was is we elected a black guy president in 2008, and half the country lost their fucking minds.
Oh yeah. That's why we're at where we're at now.
I mean,
it literally has to do with it. It literally does, because they lost their fucking minds. They couldn't believe the audacity, the gall. So this guy comes in and makes it okay to be racist and biased and sexist and now it's okay. Now it's okay.
100%. And unfortunately, a good 40% of the country thinks like this. And tell other people you need to think like this. And that's what the Republican Party is really, really good at. And that's why they're just fucking killing it right now.
And you know
Because
what's
they're really
true?
good at creating wedge issues, breaking people off into tribes, telling
Mm-hmm.
people, hey, these other people are trying to take something away from you. You should probably do something about that, and get them all fired up and getting that
Mm-hmm.
40% to vote. And then once they get a critical mass and they can take enough votes or enough rights away from other people, those people get demoralized. They don't vote, or they make it harder to vote, like closing polling
Mm-hmm.
stations and stuff. And that just cements their grip on power. And that's exactly what's happening.
I already knew, like I was telling people this years ago, that he's so embarrassed by the loss. He's so appalled. He's so, how did they do this to me?
Mm-hmm.
That he was plotting that whole 4 years. He was buying people. He was plotting. He knew he was going to run in 2024. As soon as I heard that, I said he already won. He already
Right.
has this thing on lock because his ego is not going to allow himself to lose again if he ran. He
Right.
ensured that whole 4 years he was plotting that if he ran, he was not going to lose. So he already had that shit on lock.
Right.
I
That's
swear.
all it is. That's all it
It is.
is.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think about this whole? He's defying courts. He's above the law. He's breaking laws. He's a 34-time felon. They should just have the military invade the White House, take him to jail, actually forcefully remove him. Then that's what should be done. But
Mm-hmm.
we have all this. It's never been like this before. It has never been the state where we are so against a president that we actually have all this going on.
Well, okay, we had the business plot with Smedley Butler, or with Smedley Butler is the one who saved it back in the
Oh,
30s. Have you heard of
what?
this?
No.
Yeah, there's this thing called the business plot in the 30s, and what it was business leaders were going to overthrow FDR. Of those business leaders was a guy named Prescott Bush, who was George Bush the first's dad. It's just turtles all the way down here. But yeah, there was literally a plot to use the army to overthrow FDR in the 30s to stop these social programs. The only person who stopped it was a general named Smedley Butler. Look it up; it's all true.
Okay.
It's just shit that does not get taught in schools. It's always been there. It just has never been so out in the open.
So he's making sure that everybody in any kind of power that could defy him
Is gone.
is in yeah. If that is not a sign of an oligarchy or of democracy being annihilated,
And
and this whole
40%
thing
of
is
the
going
country
on.
loves what he's doing. People are sheep. It's been 60 years of tearing down social norms and destroying social contracts, all in the name of these minorities are taking stuff away from you. So we're going to make sure that doesn't happen
I don't
anymore.
understand how they're so worried about the minorities. He's doing other things that are so detrimental. Healthcare, Social Security, just normal things that are everyday necessities. How are they
Well,
okay with that? I'm
have
sorry.
you? I mean, it's the Southern strategy just taken to the extreme. Like, you've heard of the Southern strategy? That's what they did in the
No,
60s.
I'm not.
So I think it was LBJ who said this, but and this is where this entire thing took a dark turn. And again, I think it was LBJ. He said, if you can convince the lowest white man that he is better than the best black man, that he won't notice you picking his pocket.
You will notice he what about his pocket?
If you can convince the lowest white man that he's still better than the best black man, he won't notice when you're picking his
Oh,
pocket.
oh, oh.
That's called the Southern strategy. And that's where that comes from, to where if you can convince
They have fucking mastered that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and it's working. So, like you said, if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best black man, he won't notice that you're stealing from him, right? He'll open his pockets, because one of the easiest, everybody's got to feel proud about something. Everybody's got to feel good about themselves. And for some people, all they literally have is their race. So if you can
Wow.
tell somebody, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. You are perfect the way you are because you're white. And you know why you don't have, you're not a millionaire, why you're a temporarily embarrassed millionaire? It's because of all those black people, right?
Mm.
And a huge portion of people are going to latch onto that. I'm not a millionaire yet because all these immigrants are taking our jobs and stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
been the strategy for the past 60 years, and it's working.
Completely taking the focus off of what they're doing to everybody and placing the
Exactly.
blame. Yeah, it's displacement, it's diversion, and that we are not each other's enemies.
Right.
Like,
That's
we're
the
in
whole
this
thing.
together. We're in the same fucking ship.
Yeah. This isn't a race thing, it's a class thing.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't black people versus white people
Always
versus
has
yellow
been.
people. This is poor people versus the billionaire class.
Yeah, especially now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. That's all it is, and that's what they want to distract us from seeing and from believing, and they're doing a really good job of it.
So let's stop there. Tell
Okay.
us again about your podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I have a company called Greenhat Local SEO, or GHLS for short. You can find me at the Greenhat Local SEO podcast. Not political, but this is all about how, especially for small businesses, especially with this recession coming up, how businesses can stop from making mistakes with their marketing, how they can spot when other marketing agencies and gurus are just bullshitting them and trying to take their money. And really, I go into how Google is lying to all of us and how Google itself is favoring big billionaire brands over local and small businesses that are actually running the U.S. economy.
Let's keep fighting. Let's keep going.
100%.
I want to thank you for being here. You were awesome.
Thanks for
You
having
are
me. It's
welcome back
fun.
anytime.
Awesome. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a good conversation, and hopefully people can hear it and will start thinking, critically
Yes.
thinking for themselves.
Absolutely.
It's been Kyle, it's been Stephanie, it's been From Dirt We Grow, it's been Greenhat Local SEO. And that's a wrap I just made up. No, I'm just kidding.
Love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and I will see you next week.